Hello guys and welcome to a new video. What we will be looking at today is my old Gt440 graphics card. This card was actually a part of my first gaming system, if you can even call it a system back then in 2011. The first game I enjoyed playing on this system was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. This was my first wow, look at that graphics game I've ever played. I played the game on medium to high settings on a 900p monitor. Later on, I saw how bad the graphics card actually was. When I bought Battlefield 3, I had to bump the settings way down to low settings just to get 30 FPS to 50 FPS. Well, the card that I have is a 1GB DDR3 version. It has 96 CUDA cores, a 810 MHz clock, and surprisingly enough, it supports DX12. It's a 128-bit card and it has a total power draw of 65 watts. Note that the game footage displayed was captured using MSI Afterburner's in-app recording software. Given that the software uses your CPU to capture the footage, I used my Ryzen 5 2600 to pair with this Gt440, thus removing any sort of bottleneck that might occur while recording and playing the game. Without wasting any more time, let's get into the games. Battlefield 5 just around the corner. Let's start these benchmarks with Battlefield 1. At 720p low settings as well as 80% resolution scaling, this card could only muster about 28 frames per second as well as a 1% low, 0.1% low sorry, of 13 frames per second. This was quite unplayable and I wouldn't recommend having a card that's less expensive than your game you want to play. Sticking with the Battlefield series, let's take a look at Battlefield 4's results. I had to turn down the resolution to 720p and have it at low settings. At least this time I didn't have to scale down to 80% resolution scaling. It actually had an average of 36 frames per second with a 0.1% low of 25 frames per second. This was quite playable. I was quite impressed with the card's performance on this game. Mind you that the graphics card is constantly hovering at 99 degrees Celsius.
Here he is! Irish, watch out! Wrecker! Hostiles in the windows, across! More incoming, see him? Watch out, I'm firing! Careful, we're in the side room!
Fudged up for the moment.
No way around. Get down there.
Moving along from the Battlefield series, we have Formula 1 2015. Once again, I had to turn down the resolution to 720p and have the preset at ultra low. We only got about 28 frames per second for average and a 0.1% low of 20 frames per second. This is quite unplayable for a racing game since I recommend about 45 to 60 frames per second. 60 is your sweet spot when playing racing games, especially Formula 1. So, moving to the stats, we can see that the card is already at 90 something degrees. I wouldn't say VRAM is actually holding the card back that much. The card in terms of computing power is pretty bad as it is. But yeah, having a 1GB VRAM limit is not a good thing. Moving on to Dirt Rally, we can see that this card only musters about 38 frames per second with a 0.1% low of 28 frames per second. Being a racing simulator, I would tell you this is not the card you want to play this game with. You want mainly an average of 60 frames per second, but seeing an average of 40 is dismal. And this is at 720p with the lowest preset there, or the low preset, not the lowest. There is a lower preset that will help you run the game even smoother. It will reach about 60 to 80 frames per second on the lowest preset, but it looks really bad. Moving on to Tomb Raider 2013, we can see that at 900p low, this card only averages about 34 frames per second with a 0.1% low or 31 frames per second in the in-game benchmark. As you see on the left side in the stats corner, you can see that the card is maxed out, whereas my Ryzen 5 2600 is only utilizing about 6% of the CPU power, while this card is maxed out. That is a clear indicator of a bottleneck. I thought it interesting to do a revisit to Call of Duty Black Ops 1. At 900p, low settings, no AA and no AF, we saw an average about 48 frames per second with a 0.1% low or 32 frames per second. This was playable, although I did miss a few shots. When I said I missed a few shots, I won't always blame the hardware, but this is pretty bad, as well as, okay, I'm not a good shot though. Moving on to a game that this card knows well, League of Legends. At 1080p with medium-high settings and eye candy disabled, we see an average of about 75 frames per second, with a 0.1% low or 32 frames per second. With this settings and the frame rates, this card handles the game perfectly, and with this card you can't really go wrong playing League of Legends. Although in teamfights you might see some dips. Don't mind the footage at the back, I know I'm bad at the game. CSGO ran quite well at 900p with medium settings and no AA. We saw an average of about 47 frames per second with a 0.1% low of 35 frames per second. This was doing 3 runs and taking the average of those on this cobblestone map. Finally, moving on to Dota 2, one of my least favorite games on this list. Practically the worst on this list for me. I'll probably get some hate for this, but I dislike it and rather play League instead. At 900p low settings, we saw an average of 44 frames per second with a 0.1% low or 32 frames per second. This was playable, although I really don't recommend it. The one thing Dota has above League is graphics, and you don't want to play this game with this card. This brings me to the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and thumbs up if you like it, subscribe if you want to, and see you in the next one.